Hi Jitu. All right. Should we start now?
Yes, Aniket, we should start. You don't want to be late. Okay, I'll start with the introductions. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the CTutor team, welcome to our webinar on business management. Thank you for joining us. We are excited to share practical strategies and insights you can use right away. Poornima Moharir is a business management facilitator with a decade of teaching experience and a reputation as one of the most dedicated teachers her students have had. Under her guidance, numerous students have achieved perfect scores in business management across boards. She brings practical classroom tested techniques, clear exam focused advice, and a student centered approach that helps learners understand concepts deeply and perform confidently. Please join the CTutor team in welcoming Poornima Moharir to today's webinar. We are fortunate to have her share proven strategies for teaching and succeeding in business management. Feel free to type your questions in the chat. She'll be happy to answer them during the Q&A. Now it is over to you, Ms. Poornima. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, ma'am. How is everyone doing? Thank you for joining on Friday evening today. I hope you can all take, I'm so excited to conduct this session today and share what I've learned over the years about, while guiding my students for the BMIA. And I hope that this session is equally helpful for all of you. Now, in order to begin, I would just like if everyone can participate when I'm asking questions, and you can ask me. I would take you through a flow of what I have prepared, and then you can keep asking me questions. Okay, so over here, I would like to know, I can see a lot of people have joined in. Thank you so much. And I would just like to know briefly about you as to whether you are teachers or you are students, and if you can just introduce yourselves.
Ms. Jashnapreet is a teacher. Mr. Jitu, I'm not sure. Jitu, student or a teacher? Can you type in chat? Okay, maybe he cannot type. I think, ma'am, we can continue.
I'll just share my screen before I do that. So I would like to ask everyone. So if you're teachers, like, what is your biggest kind of, dread about the whole BMIA? When you think about business management IA, what do you think, or what is it that you find the most challenging part about it? And if you can switch on your videos, that would be helpful. I can just see you and understand, and if you have questions, I can immediately answer. It would be helpful to see people over here. Anyone, if you can type, what do you think is the most challenging part of the IA for you? If you've been teaching, you must have encountered some kind of, challenges about it, difficulties, or how to answer the questions of what children are asking you. Finding a topic, true, absolutely. That is one of the biggest challenges that we have. Others? Okay. So maybe I just show you my screen and we can start from there. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
No, ma'am.
No,
No?
not yet. Yes, yes, you can see.
Okay. You can see? Okay, great. So
Yeah.
my first thing is that as a business facilitator, you must have seen that IB is wanting the students to be an all-rounder. So whatever, whether it's a simple topic or a subject, they engross the child completely into the system and the whole experience, and then they want to, they immerse them completely. So if you have paper 1, paper 2, and paper 3 for HL students, the IB is actually gauging the knowledge on the whatever information that the child has gathered over a period of 2 years that he's with you for a certain period of time in these written tests. Why do you think that IB has mandated internal assessments over here as an assessment? What is the need of IB to actually put this in over here? If you can tell me. Any idea?
I think it is because of to get them to apply the concepts in the real world.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. So, see, because the whole IB philosophy is such that they want you immersed in it. They want to see with business management. When you are reading the study guide, they tell you that they want the children to become the future leaders in business. Correct. So they are giving the child a platform in order to be able to research, and at this level, because the research actually involves a lot of other things, like you have to be a pro at mathematics because of the kind of forecasting that you would be doing. So you need to know a lot of topics. But from this perspective, as a 16 or a 17-year-old child, to understand what is being taught in school and to see how it is being applied in the real world is a platform which is being handed over by IB over here. Okay, so that is the entire reason why we are looking at business management IA. Okay, here they give you a chance to conduct the investigation as a business investigation. So it is a project, but the whole objective is so that you are able to see it in real action, real time. Okay, so here what the students are supposed to do is they take a business research project, and it has to be about a real issue. So it's not something that it is fictitious that you're making up or something. It is something that is a problem, a challenge which is faced by an organization. Okay, and it has to be seen at, looked at with a conceptual lens. Now, I hope everyone knows the conceptual lens, that how many lenses do we have, how many conceptual concepts do we have in business management? If people can answer in the chat box,
Four,
if
ma'am.
you're aware.
Four.
Absolutely, there are 4. Which one
Change,
are there, Mr.
change,
Ramesh?
change, creativity, ethics, and sustainability.
Absolutely correct. So we have these four. So when we are looking at now, what does change represent? Anything that you are doing in business. Okay. Say you are a private, say you are you know, a single person organization. You're just a single ownership organization and you're a private firm at that. And you from that you want to move on or graduate to a partnership because maybe you need capital, you need more resources, which you are not able to do it as a sole proprietor. Okay, your company, you have established a sole proprietorship. You want to maybe grow, and there are other people who are interested in investing in your firm, and then you would have to say move on to a partnership. So now here what do you see? There is a change being presented in ownership, correct? So you are changing from a sole proprietorship to a partnership. So here this is an example of change. So then there is creativity. Creativity also involves in a lot of things. It may be in terms of marketing, it may be in terms of how you look at a strategy, maybe an old strategy, but through new perspective. So that involves change. Okay. You may introduce a new product. So how are you creatively designing that new product can come under it. You have ethics as third concept, and fourth is sustainability. Okay. Now they are self-explanatory terms as such. But then you have to look at all these organizations, whatever organization you choose, you have to look at it from the perspective of this conceptual lens. Okay. So why? Because IB wants you to narrow down the focus, otherwise it just goes, it's too big a topic to be able to sum it up in 1800 words, which is the max limit for an internal assessment project. Okay. So that being said, so change ethics, just move to the next slide. Okay. So there were the four concepts. Now, in internal assessments, both SL and HL students have to do it. So it is required by both. The difference is in the weightage of the SL and the HL topic. So for students, so for SL students, this constitutes about 30% of your actual marks. And for HL students, it is 20% of your actual marks. Okay. So basically it is 25 marks, but 25 marks forming 30% and 20% of your overall marks that you get for, or grades that you get for your B.Ed. Okay. Now, what are the requirements for business management IA? The students have to select a real business issue or a problem for their research project. Okay, so which means that when an assessor is looking at the company, they should be able to see this company outlined. So there should be a footprint of it, maybe in social media. It should be an actual company. It cannot be a fictitious company that is made up. Okay. Then it has to be something. So when you're doing some kind of research, it needs to have um, there should be a thought, there should be a reason behind it. So you have to look at it, you can look at it industry wise or something, but you have to select one organization from that entire industry. Okay. This particular question, that research question that you're looking at, can be forward looking or backward looking. Now, what does forward looking and backward looking mean? Something that has happened in the past. So you are going to turn around and say, okay, what happened over here? And then you try and make sense of it. That is called backward looking because the event has already occurred. When you talk about a forward looking, the event has not occurred as yet. You know that there will be an IPO which will be launched for a particular company, say in the month of December. So some children start. I had this student who had wanted to research on Mama Earth, which is when they wanted to launch their IPO, and they wanted to check whether this will be profitable for the business. Now, such a topic. Now, they had looked at it through the lens of change, because you are changing your financial sources. Okay, that was one. Second, but this was a tough topic for the child. I'll tell you why. Why? Because one, it was forward looking, though it is allowed by IB. But in forward looking, what happens is you do not get sufficient evidences, supporting documents to be able to form your analysis. Okay. This is of great importance when we are marking the IAs. Okay. Having enough supporting documents or documentary evidences. Now, a child who's in grade 11 and 12 may not know all the mathematical formulae or economics behind such big changes that the company is undergoing in order to have a different source of capital. Okay. So I usually recommend children to do look at a backward looking RQ rather than a forward looking RQ, because of the evidences, lack of evidences that you will notice. Okay, this is my experience. So, but if the student is able to bring up a good and worthy evidence, then by all means you can allow it. Okay, so that is up to your judgment. You would have to decide in that case. Okay, now the research can be based on primary and or secondary research. Now, I hope you know the difference between primary and secondary. Primary is what you first hand gather from people or your customers is primary. And secondary research is when someone else has done the job for you and you are actually using that information from a second party or a third party and then using it. Okay, so these are the two methods by which you can take your information or gather your evidences. Okay. Now, next part of it is, to this particular business project, you will have to put in 3 to 5 supporting documents. When I say 3 to 5, minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5 are allowed. A majority of the information that you are presenting as evidence in your for supporting your research question has to be the majority of the information has to be obtained from this particular supporting documents. Okay, your project report cannot exceed 1800 words. Please do not exceed these word limit, because the moment you do that, whatever, so typically what happens is the latter part of your essay would be after the 1800 if you have overshot the word limit, and that would include conclusion. So if you do that, the assessor is not going to read your conclusion, which means your project or your IA is partially done, it's not complete. So you would lose marks on that particular criterion. So it's always better to shorten it and stick to the word limit. Okay, and you need to keep referencing all your supporting documents and information. So whenever you are presenting an argument in while writing your essay, why are you saying what you're saying? It has to be evidence backed. So you need to reference over there, where did you get this information from? So this is what it means by fully reference all supporting documents and additional sources. Okay. Any questions till now?
Yes, madam. Can you please throw some light on arguments? What exactly it means? Arguments.
Arguments means, okay, so when so when I ask you a question, you would tell me the answer for it based on your understanding of a concept. And you would say, no, this is, if I say this color is green, and you say, no, this color is white. Okay. So and that's why. So you would have to say that, okay, this is my argument, or this is what I believe in. Okay, you would have to tell me a reason behind it. Okay, so you're backing your argument with that. So present evidence for it. Okay, so when we are saying argument, it is not like, we are fighting or something. Argument is simply stating a fact, saying that this is what I believe in. In simple terms, this is what it means. Okay, any other question? Okay, now I have a question for all of you. If you are making a recommendation for a cafe that if they should introduce a home delivery, how would you know that you have not just made up the survey results or the interview? How would that happen? How would I believe that you have done the job and actually performed all that, all these the work behind it? How would that happen? How would I believe you? The evidence that you bring to me.
Can we attach the survey to the IA?
Correct. So whatever you are proposing, or what you are saying that this is true. If I say, oh, it's raining outside, and suddenly we see the rainbow, and you start telling everyone, oh, this rainbow is rainbow. Oh, where is it? People start asking you a question, and then you have to point it out. Okay, there it is. So you're showing actual evidence that there exists a rainbow outside, and you can see it. Correct. Similarly, for whatever argument means whatever you think is your opinion, you have to back it by evidence that this is what I'm saying, and the reason why I'm saying this is so and so. So that becomes a part of your evidence. Okay. So we have the way we are going to, like I said earlier, we have to give supporting documents. These are very, very important because it's a part of your criterion. When I say criterion, there are 7 criterion according to which a student is given grades or marks, actually marks for their particular essay that they have written. It is being judged, it is being analyzed, and you're reviewed and given marks. It is being assessed according to that. Okay, so one of the criterions is supporting documents. Now, supporting documents, here I have written a lot of stuff, you can just read it. But what is the major, most important thing out of this is, it can be primary, it can be secondary. Secondary is what is preferred nowadays. There, in May 2024, a new subject guide for BM was introduced. Prior to that, the previous one allowed recommendations to be given. It was a part of it, which is not so required in the new IA guidelines. And we have to give 3 to 5 supporting documents which have a 3-year rule. What does this mean? Okay. Now, this is the batch of May 2026, which is with you in grade 12. They have to, their documents are going to be uploaded. There's a deadline of 20th April 2027. So we have to work 3 years backwards, which will be 20th April 2024. So what does this mean? Then you have a supporting document. Now, supporting document is when I'm saying that the company, say, the company's profit has increased from, say, 10% to 20% in the last 2 years, or maybe from last year to this year, it has been this. Now, why am I saying this? Because I found a supporting an evidence online, say on Financial Times or Economic Times. I went to that website and it was mentioned over there. Or I might have gotten this information from a company's website, the company which I'm researching on. I found it on their website. So I will have to see the date of publishing of that particular information. So the date of publishing of that information has to be it cannot be further than 20th April or behind 20th April 2024. Prior to that, it has to have published after 20th April 2024 till 2027. We can use that. But anything published prior to 20th April 2024 will not be allowed to be submitted over here or not be counted as that. So you should look at this 3-year rule has to be followed. Okay. Then every document, now 3 to 5, if you submit less than 2, it gives an indication to the assessor that you have not done due diligence or you did not spend enough time looking at or researching for your project work. It cannot be over 5, because then in order to do justice to those supporting documents, you would overshoot 1800 words. So that being the logic, they give you a leeway from 3 to 5 supporting documents. Okay, you have to label each and every supporting document, and it is added as a separate document and uploaded along with your main IA, which is the essay. Okay, I have given a few, if you can just go through the slides. This is for primary research, what is considered as a supporting document for the primary research that you're conducting over here. And the next slide is for the secondary research, which is, so company website, financial statements, industry report and all, that is fine. Now, when I say company website or I say a financial statement, okay, it does not mean that you show me a 120 pager financial statement. Okay, no assessor, no evaluator is going to read a 120 page document. What you need to do is take screenshots of that particular. So why am I saying this? Because there will be times when, if you're looking at profitability, say your research question includes profitability of the company. So how would you show that? You will have to, what will you use? Your profitability ratios. You will try and show. You might show the liquidity ratios in order to prove your research question. Correct? So highlight those particular items from the financial statement and put it on a document, a Word document, and later you convert it into a PDF. Yeah. Any questions till now? Okay. Next. So, these, if you see the entire company brochure, entire annual report, these things should not be included over here. What should be included are relevant extracts from these particular reports, sample pages, summarized results. That is what you can include in your, as a part of your supporting document. Okay. Next. This is just a recap of what your supporting documents would look like or should include. They should be from, now, when I say present range of perspectives, that is because when you are trying to argue about a research question, whether it should be this, whether it should be that, whether the company should, have follow this rule or that rule, okay, you will have to give them clear logic why things need to be the way they need to be. Okay, so you would have to look at different perspectives. So you can look at financial statements, you can look at CEO's interview which was recorded, you can look at maybe a journal which was published, an article which was published in a journal. So this would make your argument very strong. Okay, so different types of supporting documents. Now, next is part is about choosing your business. What type of business should you choose? Any idea? What do your students say? What do they ask you? How do you guide your students about this? How do you start it?
I think I can suggest them like it can be local to national to global businesses. Anything we can try. But only the
Okay.
thing need to be ensured is like if at all the student is also having the extended essay of business management, then a clear distinction has to be there. like
Mm-hmm.
it should be 1800 and that should be yeah, those kind of instructions
4,000 words.
yeah, I would be giving.
Hmm.
Is it correct, madam? Like
So yes, you can look at all these different businesses. The most important is because you are trying to look at a particular problem or a challenge that they are facing, and then try and answer it. Okay, understand why they did a strategy, what change did it make, what was the impact of it. Okay, so from experience, I can say it helps you if you're looking at a larger company. The IB does not stop you or prevent you from looking at smaller companies. The only thing is you do not get enough supporting documents when you're looking at smaller companies. The larger the company, the more easily that information is available to you on internet. You can see the company reports, financial statements are easily available. What happens is if you go to those small companies, okay, people are a little wary, they are careful, they do not want to share their profit and loss statement, they don't want to share the balance sheets. Okay, whereas if it's a public organization, public limited company, you can actually find that information easily available on the internet because it's a requirement. They have to publish their financial statements, so hence you will be able to find it. Correct.
in that case, like how they are going to get the primary things because I think IA.
So if you see that primary is and or, okay,
Okay.
so it's not a mandate to have a primary research. If you have not done it, it is fine because many cases you will not be able to do it. Okay, the reason why this was done was earlier, maybe I think over a few years, IAB realized that children were going to these small companies and they were, doing their research on their own and then just submitting it. So that was not helpful. That did not actually satisfy the aim or the objective of IB to make children business leaders. How do you? But if you do the secondary, then they actually have to sit down and start doing the analysis and the evaluation, which is the actual objective of IB. Okay, so we prefer secondary. Though I'm telling you that primary, it's not that the primary cannot be taken up, it can be taken up. But whatever method you use, it has to be helpful to present or to prove the argument that you are stating in your research question. Hmm? So that should be the objective. Okay. Now moving on next, when we look at a research question, okay, it cannot be a vast topic. You have to narrow it down. Why? Because unless you narrow it down, you will not be able to answer it in 1800 words. So this is like, so your research question is of great importance. Okay. Now, when I say that, see, if you just say marketing strategy, now marketing strategy can have a lot of things that you can write above the line, below the line, marketing strategy. Okay. Now, how would you choose what to choose? Now, so that's why we don't use the word marketing strategy completely like that. We have to we have to narrow down the focus of that. So what do we do? If we say, should XYZ bakery introduce online delivery to increase revenue? This is still very wide in scope. Okay. So we have to narrow it down further. If you say, to what extent did XYZ bakery invest 2 lakh in online delivery services? Then you can say,
Ma'am, you are muted. Now we can hear you.
Am I audible right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're audible, ma'am, now. You're audible, ma'am.
Okay. I was getting some system messages, so I thought I'll ask. Okay. So what is the next one? Okay. So when we look at this particular question over here, and to what extent XYZ bakery in, so see, it's a very clear-cut question over here, which you can prove. You will do a forecast. You can use decision trees over here. You can see the return on investment that you are doing. So different ratios can be used in order to answer this particular question, correct? And you can get the sales figures from past and see how that can have an impact. You can interview maybe your customers and arrive. So primary and secondary research can be done, correct? Now, so there are two other questions which are given as a part of your IB guide, business management guide, which are there. So one of them is, should a company buy change its manufacturing to outsourcing? Okay. Now here, if you see this word change, this gives you an idea that the concept of change is being introduced, correct? And what is it changing? It's changing the method of production. Okay. Either they manufacture it in-house or they are outsourcing it. So how would you go about answering this question? Can you tell me? Anyone? Or if you can answer, how can an airline X successfully target segment Y? So, you can answer, the way you can answer it, you will have to look at the financial statements prior of these particular organizations and what type of segments they are looking at, demographics, what has been their footfall, or how many tickets and sales have they made previously, whether this particular new destination, if they add, correct? Is it of importance to the demographic that they are looking for? So all these things will be taken into account in order to be answering this question. Next, so when we are looking at a good RQ, we have to look at how the business decision, whether it is, it's what kind of a business decision is being spoken about, whether it is measurable. There should be an objective. Why are you undertaking this particular research? Okay. Then there is what is the management issue out over here? So all these things need to be clearly stated in a RQ. Now, next slide is about what is the flow for an IA. So I've just given a rough flow, what you can do. So first you have to describe the business problem. You have to look at what is the problem that the business is facing. Then you look at the research question. To answer the research question, what kind of data would you need? Primary data, secondary data, what type of tools you are going to use? Based on the tools, how are you analyzing the situation and the evidence, your evaluation of it, and then you conclude whether you are able to answer the research question. That is what we are looking at. Okay. Next, I'll take you through what should be the suggested structure of an IA. Now, mind you, IB has not mentioned that what the structure as such should be, but this is what is my 2 cents about, how to structure it. And because when you talk to students, they need a kind of a vision. They need some kind of format that they can follow so that they are able to, be on the road and they are not digressing from that path as such. Okay, so first one, we always have the title page, which has the research question, candidate number, word count, key concept, whether you're using change, creativity, ethics, or sustainability has to be mentioned on it. Okay, then you go, next page should be your table of contents, but it's optional, but it's always recommended. You know, it gives an idea to the uh, assessor, evaluator, what is going to come next. Okay, next comes to your introduction. Now, what I have mentioned over here about words, this is not a hard and fast rule. This is something that I just recommend. You can do plus or minus of it depending on the topic that you have. Okay. Now, what should you include in introduction? This should be about you should give a brief introduction about the organization. What are the issues being faced by or the challenges being faced by the organization? Why is it that the issue is worthy of being researched? Okay, then you should clearly state your research question and explain the key concept that you're using. Okay, you have to declare it out and should be done in the introduction page itself. Okay, till here, any questions from anyone?
I have a question, madam. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Uh, can we get actually these PPT after this session?
Yeah, I
Is it?
think it's okay. I can share it, not an issue.
Yeah. So
And
we'll share the PPT, but we'll share a Padlet with you where you can share your email ID and your details and your feedback for ma'am's session, and then we'll share the documents with you.
sure. And one more thing, like I want to discuss, if it is okay for me to discuss now or after your session. I want to discuss about the IS which was submitted by my students as of now. I want to discuss one thing, one or two, so that I want to understand like is that it is going well or any adjustments are required for that.
Okay, so what we can do is we'll finish the session and
Yeah,
then in the question and answer session, you can ask.
yeah,
Okay,
we'll do
maybe
that.
you
Yeah,
can
thank you.
get an answer in the flow itself.
Yes.
Okay. So next is then you have the supporting documents. Now I typically like children mentioning the supporting documents in the introduction, that what have they used, not point by point, but a certain logic why they are using what supporting documents they are using, because this gives an idea to the person who is reading it, assessing it, that okay, I am going to find so and so and I have to look for so and so in the entire document, because it is an 1800 page document. Okay, now this is the way you can, not it has to be in an essay format. So here I just wanted to give you an idea about when I said in the previous slides that it should represent a lot of perspective. So which is why I was just wanting to give kind of an idea what do different perspective mean. So over here, if you see, we are looking at financial annual report, gives you a financial and sustainability information. This is a news article, if you see. Then CEO's interview, market research report, company sustainability. So here you have seen, if you see, there are 5 different documents and they are presenting different works done by the organization, and you can use them to present different perspective for your particular argument. Okay, then comes methodology. Now methodology, 200 to 300 words is what I recommend. Now here, why is this important? Because you should describe, it's like setting tone for what is to come. Okay, so you are giving an explanation of how you have gone about collecting the information, why have you done so, what to do so. So your, basically your action plan and why you have done it. This is what comes in methodology. Okay, you will also discuss the reliability, validity, and limitations of the whether you collected primary or secondary resources or what tools you were using. So what were in general, you will just, in a few sentences, you have to mention that what were the limitations or validity and how they are reliable. Where did you get these sources from? That is what it is about. Okay. Next is we move on to business tools. Now, business tools are one place where children do lose marks. Okay. Why? Because it's like, if I were to give you an example, many a times you get that state two limitations for so and so. Okay. Now, I always tell children, when you are answering such kind of questions, you have to look at the case study and then give limitations according to that, because any concept that you have will have at least 5 or 6 limitations or disadvantages, correct? But which one do you have to write depends on context, and that is your case study. Similarly, over here, when we are talking about business tools, we cannot use any random business tool. See, it's like going to a doctor will prescribe you. There are so many medicines available in the world, but which one does the doctor prescribe? The one which is suitable to treat your illness or whatever discomfort you are feeling, correct? Same way, when you are talking about business tools, you are supposed to use the tool which will help you explain, or whatever research question you have, it should be able to answer that. You cannot use a SWOT analysis, correct, or steeple analysis, and then say I am going to talk about the financial some implication. How is that going to help you? Because SWOT talks about the internal strengths, steeple talks about the external environment, business environment, correct? And if we are wanting to show the profitability of an organization, then we should be looking at the profitability ratios and not a SWOT analysis, correct? So this is what I mean when I say you have to use the relevant tools in order to answer your questions over here. If you use the incorrect tool, you will lose out on marks for it. Then next comes your analysis and discussion. So here you have to this should have the majority of your entire word count. Okay, this is where you have the maximum marks awarded. So this is why it is important that whatever tool you are using helps you to do a lot of analysis and discussion and evaluation, because there's a criterion for this. Now, BM tools, I'll take you back to this. Now, if you see, I've listed a few tools over here and what they are required for, what would you use to support your argument. So if it is something about pricing, say your research question is something about pricing, one of your tools should be a break-even analysis, correct? If you're talking about expansion of your company, then force field analysis should be one of the tools that you're using. If you're talking about marketing strategy, Ansoff should be one. So I've given a few things over here that if it is an investment related issue, payback should be one of the things, ratios and formulae that you're using over here. If you're talking about capacity, increasing the capacity of your organization, you have to talk about decision tree. If you're launching a new product, you have to talk about Boston Matrix. So this is what I mean by relevant tools. Tools need to be relevant to the research question, and they should be used to answer the research question that you have. Okay. Now, quality of application matters more than the number of tools being used, which is very, very important. Okay. So, and given you another slide, if you see over here. Now, there are times when children are doing some kind of analysis and description where they say the profits were low. Now, that's a very vague statement, A student who has been studying business management for 2 years is expected to be using the correct language in order to describe what is happening. So if you say profit margin declined from 18% to 12%, after raw material prices increased and reducing the availability of cash for expansion. Good. But the best would be that taking that and then adding this statement that this suggests that investing in a second outlet may increase long-term revenue but worsen the short-term liquidity. Okay, unless the external financing is secured. Now, if you see these two particular statements, don't they give an idea to the assessor that this particular student has taken the information, processed it, analyzed it, and then being able to evaluate it? Do you think that it gives that kind of sense to the assessor? Do you want me to
Yes.
unhighlight just to read it better? Okay, moving forward. Now, this is the progression of your project. So you should need to describe what is the research question or the tools that you're using. So it should go, if you use this methodology, it helps you construct your essay very well. So you describe, then you analyze, and then you are evaluating the whole information that you have gathered. Okay. So uh, I'm taking this forward now. What did I mean by that? It means that when you start saying these sentences or statements that the business should improve marketing, that's a very random and a very vague statement. But if you say something like business should allocate 50,000 rupees over 3 months to Instagram advertising targeting the customers aged 18 to 30. Based on the questionnaire findings that 68% of the respondents discover cafes through social media. Now, doesn't that give a very nice, thoughtful, clear cut idea about what the student has done for their research? Isn't it? So, this is the kind of evaluation, this is the kind of analysis that is expected from IB students. Okay, now next, going to evaluation. Now, in evaluation, what does evaluation mean? Till now you have analyzed, you have understood okay, why this thing happened. When you are evaluating, you're looking at the impact of what has happened. Okay, so when we say evaluation, you're not just explaining what has happened over there. No, that anyone can understand. What is required is to understand, okay, this happened, which means this can happen, or this is the impact that this particular decision this particular decision made by the CEO, this is the impact that it can have in future. That is the evaluation. Okay, so I've given some examples over here, you can just read through this. Okay, after evaluation, now next you come to conclusion, which is 300 to 400 words. So again, conclusion, you are not supposed to add any new information. It's just summing up of what has happened. Okay, and you are, so it's a progression. So you are taking the reader of the essay and you are telling them that based on all of this, have I been able to answer the research question or not? And it should be clearly answered. Okay, do not leave it to the evaluator's mindset that he will understand. No, it needs to be properly articulated in your essay, whether this, so to conclude, this has happened, or this particular strategy resulted in this much improvement in the profit margin by so and so percentage. Okay, so you have to conclude the essay properly. You have to say yes or no whether the research question has been answered or not. Okay, and you recap the supporting documents or the how you have led to the conclusion. Okay, so that is very important. You have to integrate your key concepts and your supporting documents as well in this. Okay, I've given an example again over here. The evidence suggests that Starbucks sustainability initiatives have strengthened the brand perception but have yet to generate measurable financial benefits in the short term. Therefore, the investment has been moderately successful in achieving its sustainability objectives. So, isn't it? You understand that there was a research question about Starbucks being able to achieve its sustainability. Has it been able to achieve its sustainability objectives? Okay, we have answered that question. See, recommendation is not required in the new syllabus. Okay, just a conclusion, and you have to justify why you have arrived at that particular conclusion. You can next you have to add in the works cited. Now there is APA, MLA, Chicago. You need to check with your DPC coordinator as to what your particular school follows, which format it follows, and then accordingly guide the students to use that particular style. Okay. Then appendices, you will have to put in supporting documents. Whatever you have used, they can be a part of your appendices. 1800 is the word count. There are times when students will ask you what is what is included in word document, word count, and what is not included in the word count. So what is included in the word count is your introduction, methodology, analysis, discussion, conclusion, index, citation. Okay. The headings are not a part of your word count, and what is excluded is your title page, table of contents, research question, headings, subheadings, labels, tables, appendices, bibliography, footnotes, and page numbers. They are not a part of your word count. Okay. Now, one important thing what I've seen, children, in order to save up on their word count, what do they end up doing? They will actually start publishing their information or their evaluation in table format, because tables are not a part of the word count. Now that is seriously looked down upon by the evaluators. They do not uh, give good marks to the students who do something like this. Okay, you should not put information as a part, the one where you are analyzing context as a part of table. It should be a part of your word count itself. Okay, so be very, very careful with the tables. Do not hide your analysis in it to save your word count. Okay, now there is assessment criteria. How are the BMIs assessed? They are based on the 7 assessment criteria which are mentioned over here, which is why your key concept, supporting documents, tools and theories, analysis, evaluation, conclusion, structure, and presentation. So these are the reason you can refer to your BM guide, which tells you in detail what to do, okay, and how to mark or assess the IAs. Next is common mistakes that some children do. Though it's not mandatory, if you do primary research, it is good, but it is not mandatory. Okay, some children use too many business tools. As I mentioned, business tools too many is not important. The quality is important. What tools you are using and whether they are able to answer the questions. Okay, less than 3 tools if you use, that means you will not be able to do sufficient analysis and evaluation. So minimum I recommend 3 to be used. Okay, 4 is still okay, but nothing more than that, because you would not have sufficient word count to be able to analyze and write in your essay. Okay, do not your referencing should be very good, because the assessor will always ask, where did this information come from? Okay, all these are important. Descriptive writing, please avoid. It should be engaging and should be sharp and to the point to keep the reader actively involved and engrossed in your IA. Now, some golden rules, just to recap what we have mentioned. Start with the business problem, not with your business tools in mind. Um, every paragraph that you're writing should answer the research question. If you keep this in mind, you will be able to keep within the word limit. Okay. Uh, each tool should add value, should be able to answer the question, research question. A recommendation or evaluation needs to be, a recommendation is not required as per the new guide, but each evaluation must be supported by evidence. Okay. Do not write a textbook. You should be able to write properly, succinctly, and to the point. Okay, that was it. Now I can, if there are any questions, I can answer them.
If there are any general questions, maybe we can continue on the live feed. But if there are specific questions related to children's IAs or something, then we can stop the live feed and we can continue the meeting here. So, Mr. Ramesh, do you have any general questions for ma'am?
No, madam.
No, no. Okay. So I think then we can stop the live feed. I would like to thank Poornima ma'am for giving such practical advice on how to write a good business IA. Really, some points like common mistakes that children make, what is included in the word count and what is not included in the word count is very, very helpful for students as well as teachers. So thank you so much, Poornima ma'am, for this wonderful session. We would
Thank
share and we would share the ma'am's resources and all with people who have joined the meeting today. Yeah. So now, Ramesh, Mr. Ramesh, you can continue with your questions that you have.
Yes, madam. Madam, there is a student who written the RQ like this, like key concept is sustainability. The research question is going like this, like to what extent should Lego increase its investment in sustainable materials as part of its marketing strategy to strengthen brand image and long-term competitiveness?